The Mosasaurus in Jurassic World is shown at around 40 meters, and in a couple of shots, past 80. At that size, it would outweigh a blue whale and rank as the largest animal that has ever lived, on land or in the sea. The real one? About 17 to 18 meters, roughly a sperm whale. The movie didn't just round up. It roughly doubled the length of a real Cretaceous predator and called it a dinosaur, which it wasn't. So what was the true apex of those ancient oceans capable of? To answer that, you have to throw out almost everything the movie taught you and start with the fossils. And the fossils tell a story that is, honestly, more interesting than the monster. Let's start with that size, because it's the part the film got most wrong. The biggest well-supported Mosasaurus specimens land in the range of 17 to 18 meters. A 2014 study by the paleontologist Dmitry Grigoriev described one of the largest known individuals at around 17 meters. The Natural History Museum in London cites figures up to roughly 18 meters for the genus. That is genuinely enormous. It puts the animal in the same length class as a modern sperm whale, though lighter in build. It was one of the largest marine predators the planet has ever produced. The movie version sits at roughly 40 meters in most shots, and if you measure it against the surrounding boats and people in a few scenes, the perspective pushes it past 80. 80 meters is not a big animal. 80 meters is a category error. A blue whale, the largest creature we know of in the entire history of life, tops out around 30 meters. The Jurassic World Mosasaurus, taken at face value, would be more than twice the length of the largest animal that has ever existed. The real one was a third of that. The film took a true giant and inflated it into something the laws of biology won't allow. Mosasaurus was not a dinosaur. It gets grouped with dinosaurs in pop culture because it lived in the same era and looked the part, but it sits on a completely different branch of the reptile family tree. Mosasaurs were marine reptiles. Their closest living relatives are monitor lizards and snakes. If you want a mental image, picture a Komodo dragon's distant cousin that went fully aquatic and grew to the size of a whale. According to the Natural History Museum, mosasaurs evolved from small, land-capable lizards that gradually took to the water over millions of years. They were lizards of the sea, not dinosaurs of the sea. The distinction matters because it tells you this whole body plan. The paddle limbs, the long tail, the cone-toothed jaws evolved independently from anything in the dinosaur lineage. So the apex predator of the late Cretaceous oceans was, in a sense, an overgrown lizard, and it ruled, while dinosaurs dominated the land. Mosasaurs owned the shallow seas that covered much of the planet right up until the end Cretaceous mass extinction, around 66 million years ago. The same event that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs took the mosasaurs with it. They didn't fade out slowly. They were apex predators in their prime when the world changed underneath them. Now to the third thing the movie got wrong, and this one is subtle because it looks cool on screen. The Jurassic World Mosasaurus swims with a long eel-like undulation, its whole body rippling side to side like a sea snake. For a derived mosasaur like Mosasaurus, that's not how it worked. Fossil evidence shows that the advanced mosasaurs had developed a shark-like tail, with a downward-bending vertebral column supporting a proper fluke. They powered themselves with strong sweeps of that crescent tail, more like a shark or a tuna than a snake. The eel-style swimming the film shows did exist, but only in the earliest, most primitive mosasaurs, the ones still transitioning from a lizard's body into a swimmer's. By the time you reach Mosasaurus itself, evolution had already engineered a far more efficient cruising machine. The movie rewound the animal's evolution by tens of millions of years and put the old swim style on the newest model. Picture what that looked like. Not a giant snake thrashing through the water, but a streamlined hunter with paddle-like limbs for steering and a muscular tail driving it forward in smooth, deliberate strokes. It was built to ambush, to accelerate in short bursts, and to maneuver in open water. That's a more frightening animal than the cartoon serpent, because it's a real, functioning predator instead of a special effect. If you're enjoying this, consider subscribing. The channel digs into the real science behind animals like this all the time. Which brings us to the fourth myth, the diet. The movie's signature moment has the Mosasaurus leaping out of its tank to swallow a great white shark whole in one gulp, and later it takes on land predators the size of a Tyrannosaurus. The real animal could not have swallowed a T-Rex-sized animal whole. Its prey was the prey of a large marine reptile, not a kaiju. It ate fish, ancient sea turtles, plesiosaurs, ammonites, and smaller mosasaurs, including, at times, members of its own kind. Its teeth were cones built for gripping and tearing slippery, struggling prey, not for swallowing something the size of a bus in a single motion. A 17-meter predator is more than capable of taking down a shark or a turtle. It did not need and could not manage the movie's appetite. The real Mosasaurus was the top of a food web, and like every top predator, it was bounded by the size of what lived around it. Mosasaurus also wasn't alone up there. The Cretaceous seas were full of marine reptiles competing for that apex slot. Tylosaurus, another giant mosasaur, reached around 13 to 14 meters and hunted in the same waters. And the lineage is still surprising researchers. In 2025, scientists described a new giant species, Tylosaurus rex, at roughly 13 meters in the Bulletin of the American Museum of Natural History. The name is a nod to the land king, but this one was a sea king, a marine reptile, no relation to the dinosaur it borrows its name from. The fact that we're still naming new giants from these oceans tells you how rich that ecosystem was. There wasn't one monster. There was a whole guild of them, each tuned to a slightly different way of hunting. Step back and look at what the fossils describe. A marine lizard, 17 to 18 meters long, roughly the length of a sperm whale, propelled by a shark-like tail, steering with 4 paddles, gripping fish and turtles and rival mosasaurs in cone-toothed jaws, ruling shallow seas across the planet for millions of years before vanishing in the same catastrophe that ended the dinosaurs. None of that needs exaggeration. The movie doubled the length, swapped the swimming, inflated the appetite, and slapped a dinosaur label on a lizard. Every one of those changes made the animal less accurate and, arguably, less impressive, because reality already handed us something extraordinary. That's the strange thing about the Jurassic World version. It tried to outdo nature and ended up describing an animal that couldn't exist. The real Mosasaurus didn't need 80 meters or a movie monster diet to be one of the most formidable hunters the oceans ever produced. It just needed 17 meters, a fluked tail, and tens of millions of years of evolution, shaping a lizard into the apex of the Cretaceous Sea. The fossils are out there in museum collections right now, and they're more convincing than any computer effect, because they happened. A lizard the length of a whale once cruised the water where you might go swimming today. You don't have to inflate that to make it remarkable. You just have to look at it accurately. If you want more stories about the real animals behind the legends, there are plenty more on the channel.